So, in the previous lecture, we had finished the introduction to real analysis, where in the previous lecture we had discussed about uncountable sets and cardinal number, right? Cardinal number. Under the concept of uncountable sets, we had further proved that the set of all real numbers is numerically equivalent to the power set of the set of all natural numbers, which is further numerically equivalent to the open set 0 1. And from here we also found that the set of all real numbers is an uncountable set, right? Is an uncountable set. What does uncountability means? There exists no bijection from n to r, right? Or r to n, anything. Clear? Basically r to n or some subset of n. Okay. Acha. So in this lecture we are going to start with the real number system. Clear? So it is represented by the symbol, as you already know. This is the real number system, real number system, or real set of all real numbers, anything you may call. Acha, this is also called the real number line, okay, or the real line, or the real number line. The reason is nothing but, you can basically represent any x which belongs to the set of real numbers as a ratio of lengths on a number line. Okay. For example, suppose this is a number line you have. Say this is the neutral point 0, neutral point. These are the positive numbers, these are the negative numbers, these are the positive numbers. Suppose this marks the point A such that OA is 1. This marks the point B such that OB is M. Okay. So this real number M can be represented as OB by OA. Clear? That's why real number systems is also known as a real number line. Clear? Now, in this lecture, basically what we will be learning are some characterizing properties of real numbers. Clear? Some characterizing properties of real numbers. What? So basically, real numbers have certain characterizing property. What are those? So the set of all real numbers along with plus binary operation, product binary operation, and this partial order is said to be a complete ordered field. Okay. And this is basically a property which distinguishes the set of all real numbers from natural numbers, from complex numbers, as well as from rational numbers. Okay. Basically, you know, natural numbers doesn't exhibit the field axioms, or the algebraic properties of R. Algebraic properties of R. Okay, these field terms comes from satisfying these field axioms. Because R satisfies these field axioms, that's why it is called a field. Basically it forms a commutative ring. Okay, the set of all complex numbers does not satisfy the order properties, satisfy the order properties, but R does. And the set of all rationals does not satisfy the completeness property, which R does. So basically this collective property is basically characterizes R. Characterizes R. Okay. Characterizes R means, if there exists some x, some algebraic structure, say x plus dash dot dash and partial order of this form, such that x is a complete ordered field, then x is numerically equivalent, or no, not numerically equivalent, basically isomorphic. Okay, basically isomorphic. So x is isomorphic to R. Okay, there exists an isomorphism between x and R. So we are not going to discuss the proof of this in this lecture. because that is basically kind of very complex. You can, if you are interested, you can easily find this proof from the book of written by Ali Prentice and Birkinshaw, and the book's name is Principles of Real Analysis. Principles of Real Analysis. You can find it there. Acha, now let us start with the field axioms of R. So the algebraic system consisting of the additive binary operation and the multiplicative binary operation forms a commutative ring. Okay, let's check the properties. So properties under addition and properties under multiplication. Okay, so the first properties are similar. Almost basically all the properties are almost similar. So a and b belonging to the set of real numbers implies that a plus b also belong to the set of real numbers. This is called the closure property. Similarly, you have here AB belonging to the set of real numbers implies that A times B also belongs to the set of real numbers. This is also same closure property. Okay, that is, if you compose any two elements of the real number, that composition still remains in the set of real numbers. Okay, acha. Next one is said that A plus B is equals to B plus A for all AB belonging to the set of reals. Clear? This is called commutativity. What is this called? Commutativity. Similarly, same goes here. AB is equals to BA for all AB belong to the set of reals. Commutativity. Clear? The third one, let's say A plus B plus C is equals to A plus B plus C. Okay. For all A, B, C belong to the set of reals. This is called associativity. What is this called? Associativity. Same goes here. You have A times BC, which can be equals to AB times C for all ABC belonging to R, also called associativity. Okay. The next property in the list are the fourth one, saying that for all A belonging to the set of R, there exists 0 belonging to the set R such that A plus 0 is equals to 0 plus A is equals to A. This is existence of additive inverse. Existence of additive inverse. Sorry, existence of additive identity. Existence of additive identity. Clear? Acha. Similarly, for all A belonging to the set of real numbers, there exists 1 belonging to the set of R such that A times 1 is equals to 1 times A is equals to A. Clear? Is equals to A. And this is also called existence of multiplicative identity. Multiplicative identity. Clear? Fifth point says that for all A belonging to the set of capital R, or let not generalize this because this property is kind of unique. Okay, so let us write it like this: for every A belonging to the set of capital R, there exists a unique B belonging to the set of capital R such that A plus B is equals to B plus A is equals to 0. Clear? And this B is represented basically as negative A and is called the additive inverse. Additive inverse. Clear? Similarly, for every a belonging to R such that a is greater than basically a is not equal to 0, there exists a unique b belonging to the set of R such that a times b is equals to b times a is equals to 1. Okay. Here this b is represented as a inverse or 1 by a and is called the multiplicative inverse. Multiplicative inverse. I hope this portion is clear. Got it? So and there is a final property which connects the additive properties and the multiplicative properties, which is called the distributive property. Okay. The distributive property says that a times b plus c is equals to ab plus ac, which is equals to ba plus bc, is equal to ba plus ca, which is equals to b plus c times a. This is the distributive property connecting addition and multiplication. Clear? So basically all these properties are shown by the set of real numbers. These algebraic properties are basically called the field axioms. Basically called the field axiom. So real numbers form a field or a commutative ring. Clear? Acha. Natural numbers do not obey all these properties because a belonging to the set of natural numbers does not imply minus a belonging to the set of natural numbers. So identity cannot exist. Clear? So this is the fact why natural numbers differ from the set of real numbers. The next topic is the order properties. The order. So what does the order property say? Let's see. So, suppose this is a partial order. Suppose this is a partial order on R satisfying the following. Satisfying the following. Okay. First thing, this is a total order. I guess you people remember what is a total order. Total order means what? For any element, any two element from the real numbers, either a less than equal to b or b less than equal to, either of them is related. Okay, this is the uh, first one. Second one says that a less than equal to b implies a plus c is less than equals to b for all b plus c for all a b c belonging to the set of real numbers. Clear? And finally, the number 3 point says that if alpha belongs to the set of real numbers such that alpha is greater than 0, then for all a b belonging to the set of reals, a less than equals to b implies a alpha less than equals to b alpha. Okay, including 0 will also do here. And if alpha is less than 0, then for all a b belonging to the set of R, a less than b will less than equal to b will imply b alpha is less than equals to a alpha. So the order changes. Clear? These three properties basically yield that the real numbers satisfy the order properties. Okay. The set of all complex numbers, okay, they obey the field axioms. They obey the field axioms, but not the order properties. Okay. So basically now this linear structure has a additive operation. These two are binary and this is a partial order and this is an ordered field. This is an ordered field. Okay. And we actually know these things about partial order. We have learned it already in the previous lectures. Okay. Acha. One more notation we will often be using this. This basically means that all non-negative reals. 0 is also included. All non-negative reals. Clear? And these things you already know, that a less than equals to b is equivalent to writing b is greater than equals to a, or a is less than b is equivalent to writing a is less than equals to b and a is not equal to b. Right? These things we know. Acha. Now we come to a very important function of the real number system. You can write it, anywhere. This is very short. So which is called the absolute value function. It's called the absolute value function. Okay, denoted by this. So this is basically a function from R to R and is a piecewise function such that mod of x is positive x if x is greater than equal to 0 and negative x when x is less than 0. So that means that mod of x is always belonging to the set of all non-negative integers. Clear? Clear? Or basically, you can call it a subset rather, because this gives you the image. Belong will also do. Belongs will also do. Okay. Belongs will also do. So these elements belong to the set of all non-negative integer or non-negative reals. Always positive. Okay. Always positive, or also rather always non-negative. Clear? So from here we get two properties about this function. One is called the triangle inequality. This you have already learned in previous classes. Triangle inequality, it was also used in complex numbers, which is mod of x plus y is less than equals to mod x plus mod y for all x comma y belonging to the set of reals. And the second one is pretty easy, that is mod of xy is basically equals to mod x times mod y for all xy belonging to real. So from this second point we get a corollary that mod of x over y is basically mod of x over mod of y for all xy belonging to the set of reals. Triangle inequality is clear, I guess. Okay. Okay. So now comes the next topic, which is the final topic, but the most important one of the real analysis, or the real grammar system rather, because we are gonna have one more lecture which is solely dedicated to this topic, which is the LUB axiom, which is the LUB axiom, LUB axiom, also called the completeness property, also called the completeness property, also called the supremum property, also called the supremum property. Okay. So what does this basically say? So this property basically say that every non-empty subset of R, every non-empty subset of R, if bounded above, has a least upper bound in R. It is not mandatory that the subset of R will be bounded above. For example, the set of all natural numbers, we will be proving it in the next lecture that the set of all natural numbers is not bounded above. So, but if there exists a non-empty subset of R which is bounded above, then it will surely have a least upper bound in the real number set. Okay, and this third property, as I told in the initial point of the lecture, that this third property adds to the complete set of properties collectively called the complete order field, which leads to the real number system to be called the complete ordered field. Okay, this point is also introduced as one more term, which is called the order completeness property. Order completeness property, this is one more term. Okay, order completeness property. Clear? So R is said to be a complete ordered field. Is that clear? Is that clear? Achha. Similarly, you can prove, you can basically tell it for something, for a subset which is bounded below also. From here, which is kind of a corollary, which you can say it like this, that every uh, non-empty subset of R, if bounded below, if bounded below has a greatest lower bound in R. You can also say this one also. Okay. Acha, I guess you people remember what is least upper bound and what is greatest lower bound. Okay, if you have A to be some subset of X such that A is non-empty, then if there exists some small x belongs to capital X such that for all small a belongs to capital A, small a is less than equals to X, where this depicts the partial order, of course. Okay, we will be later on moving on to the conventional statement where we use this as a less than equal to symbol. Now we are basically, this is the partial order. Okay, so where A is less than equal to X, then A is called, basically A is bounded above, A is bounded above, and X is an upper bound of A. X is an upper bound of A. Acha, now if there exists uh, an element X dash, let's say, of X such that for all small a belongs to capital A, this X dash is also an upper bound of capital A, and this X is also related to this X dash, then what happens is that X is called the lowest upper bound, also called the supremum. Also called the supremum. If you invert the order of these these inequalities, then you get the lower bound. The set is said to be bounded below. You have X as the lower bound and X dash. If X exists, obeying the second property, then X becomes the greatest lower bound, and that greatest lower bound is called the infimum. I hope you people remember this. Acha, now why is the infimum property, this property is also called the infimum property. Okay, this is also called the infimum property. So why is this infimum property a corollary of the supremum property? Because suppose you have this relation x is less than equals to y. So from here you can write that minus y is less than equals to minus x. Clear? Using the additive properties of the real numbers, right? So if this condition, from here what we get, if y is the upper bound of x, then from here you can say that minus x is the upper bound of minus y, right? So you can inverse the statements according to your order. Okay, this was just an intuitive idea. Okay, basically what you can say from here is nothing but, if you have A as a subset of R such that A is bounded above, then basically supremum of A equals the infimum of minus A, and if bounded below, then the supremum, or rather let's say the the same thing actually, if bounded below, you have the infimum of A as the supremum of minus A. Clear? Similarly, the upper bound of A becomes the upper bound of minus. These things are kind of intuitive, kind of trivial, you can understand it on your own. Okay, now what we are going to understand is a very important part. Okay, it is often called the concept of E neighborhood of real numbers. What? The concept of E neighborhood, epsilon neighborhood of real numbers. Okay, so let's see that. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. There's some connection problem in my wire. Yeah. Now let's see. Okay, so the concept of the E neighborhood. Okay, so basically, concept of the E neighborhood. So what does the E neighborhood concept say? So this says that, the definition is like this, that let small a belong to the set of all real numbers and epsilon is greater than 0, then the epsilon neighborhood or the E neighborhood of A is represented by the set V subscript epsilon of A, which is x belongs to the set of capital R such that mod of x minus A is less than epsilon. Okay, and this basically obeys for all epsilon greater than 0. Should obey, basically should obey. At this point, let this be just epsilon. Okay, because for all epsilon greater than 0, we will bring out some more things. Okay, now suppose you have this same concept, and this x belongs to this v, I mean this e neighborhood of a for all epsilon greater than 0. Then what basically happens is that if basically mod of x minus a belongs to the epsilon for all uh, epsilon greater than 0, then this x minus a becomes 0, which basically implies x equals to a. Clear? The reason behind is that you can choose epsilon in such a way, because since epsilon is greater than 0, see, since mod of x minus a is greater than 0 and epsilon is also greater than 0, so you can obviously choose epsilon in such a way such that epsilon, suppose some value of epsilon is epsilon naught, which is greater than 0 but less than x minus a. You can obviously choose something. So these two inequalities basically gives you an obvious conclusion that mod of x minus a must be equal to 0. Clear? So this concept is called the E neighborhood of the set of all real numbers. Okay. Acha. Now suppose let's say you have two real numbers x and y. Suppose you have two real numbers x and y which belongs to the set of reals, obviously, and we want to show we want to show that x is partially related to or related to y by the partial order. Okay, or let's say x is less than equal to y for now. Okay, we can obviously use this meaning at this moment that x is less than equal to y. Okay, acha. So basically showing that x is less than equals to y for some epsilon for all epsilon greater than 0 basically implies that x is less than equals to y. Okay, and vice versa. Okay, so from here we get a very important statement which will be useful in the next lecture, which says that suppose you have this non-empty subset of R. Okay, this non-empty subset of R, and a is bounded above. Okay, so let's say it has a least upper bound denoted as alpha. Okay, let alpha be its least upper bound. Okay, so there exists some x which belongs to A such that for all epsilon greater than 0, alpha minus epsilon is less than x, which is greater than basically which is less than equals to alpha, because alpha is the lowest one always. So this is a relation which stands out there and which will basically be useful in the next lecture we have. Clear? So let this lecture be up till this much, guys. In the next lecture we are going to talk about the LUB axiom as a separate topic. So meet you guys in the next lecture.